Good afternoon, everyone. We appreciate your time and interest in joining us today. We will wait a moment while everyone gets logged into Zoom for our webinar. As we wait, we would like to share that the California Department of Education, or CDE, is offering professional development certificates to all attendees of this live webinar. I'm going to pause for a second just to make sure. I do not see our ASL interpreters. Are they? I do see them now. Awesome. We have to make sure that we are accessible. That is very important to us. So I'm going to go ahead and back up a little bit just to make sure that all of that content was covered for our people who need the ASL interpretation. While we're waiting for everyone to get logged in, we would like to share that the California Department of Education, or CDE, is offering professional development certificates to all attendees of this live webinar. Your professional development certificate will be sent from upk@cde.ca.gov to the email address that you provided during registration. The certificate will come with the name you registered and logged into Zoom under. So make sure that if your certificate comes in a different name, you could reach out to us and we could help you with that. Now, if you don't receive your certificate within 2 weeks or by about February 24th, please reach out to us at upk@cde.ca.gov, and a link to that mailbox will be shared in the chat shortly. Again, please note that certificates will only be issued to those who attend the live webinar using the name they registered with. Now we'll go ahead and get started with our webinar. Next slide, please. Welcome to the CDE's P-3 Guide to Supporting Multilingual Learners, a preschool through third grade toolkit webinar. We are very excited to be here with you today. My name is Valentina Ware, and I work in the Early Education Division, or EED, and I am one of the presenters for today's webinar. We have a few quick logistics to run through before we get started. First, we will be taking Q&A or question and answer in the Q&A feature, so please feel free to communicate with us there and ask questions if needed. We will do our best to address them. Now, lastly, the slide deck and webinar recording will be made available. The announcement will be shared through the P3 listserv. If you're not currently subscribed, for example, if one of your colleagues forwarded you this email invite to this webinar today, details on how to join will be posted in the chat shortly. This way, you get the notice when the registration is available. I will now pass to Steve Profiter to provide a welcome. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Valentina. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today for the P3 Guide to Supporting Multilingual Learners, a preschool through third grade toolkit webinar. This is our 26th edition of the OFAB, or Opportunities for All branch, pre-kindergarten through third grade, or P3 webinar series. I'd like to begin by introducing myself and today's speakers. So as Valentina mentioned, I'm Stephen Profiter, and I'm the director of the Early Education Division at the California Department of Education. We are thrilled that you have decided to join us today. Joining me from CDE, we have Ashley Metcalf, Education Programs Consultant in the Multilingual Support Division, as well as Valentina Ware, Child Development Consultant, also in the Early Education Division, who you just heard from. In addition to our CDE team, you'll also have the opportunity to hear from some amazing, incredible external partners representing a wide range of educational entities across California. Next slide, please. Today, we are excited to introduce the new CDE resource, the P3 Guide to Supporting Multilingual Learners, a preschool through third grade toolkit. This toolkit is designed to support a shared understanding of what it means to support multilingual learners and dual language learners. California is one of the most linguistically diverse states in the country with over 200 languages spoken. In California, nearly 60% of children under the age 5 are dual language learners. Student success begins with improving educational outcomes for students of color, multilingual students, and English learner students. This guide is intended to support preschool through third grade programs to serve multilingual learners. The audience of the guide is geared towards program administrators and school and district leadership. Many of the resources are also intended for educators. Next slide, please. Before we dive into the details, I want to give you a roadmap of what you'll find in the P-3 Guide to Supporting Multilingual Learners Toolkit. This will help you understand how the guide is organized and what resources are available to you. So to start, the toolkit includes key terminology, so where we can understand the shared language across preschool and the TK-12 systems. The benefits of multilingualism, which is a section that makes the case for multilingualism, highlighting the lifelong cognitive, academic, and socioeconomic benefits for children. State policies and practices, which outlines the identification processes, workforce considerations, and program models. Best practice strategies, which illustrates classroom strategies and instructional practices. 7 steps for implementation, which is a roadmap to get you from policy to practice. Tools and templates that can be used for self-assessment, family communications, and educator resources. And then additional resources that include curated materials for administrators, for educators, and for families. Today, we're going to touch on many of these topics, and you'll have access to the full toolkit with all of these resources. Next slide, please. Terminology. So within this toolkit, you'll notice different terminology when we discuss multilingual learners, depending on the program or grade level the child is in. At the California Department of Education, we continue to recognize the vital importance of various terms used to describe children who speak more than one language. For instance, the California State Preschool Program defines dual language learners as children whose first language is a language other than English, or children who are developing 2 or more languages, one of which may be English. Next slide, please. Continuing with terminology, and beyond the California State Preschool Program, once children enter the TK-12 system, they are referred to as MLLs or multilingual learners and may be identified as English learner students starting in kindergarten. An MLL in TK is a student who may have had multilingual experiences and may benefit from additional language support. Educators should use or think about a services first approach. Identification is based on answers to the home language survey. Language screening for multilingual learners in TK begins in 2027-28. EL students are defined as those students whose primary language is not English, as identified through the home language survey, and who have not yet attained full English proficiency based on the English language proficiency assessments for California, also referred to commonly as the LPAC. In this guide, we use the term MLLs to be inclusive of children who may be learning more than 2 languages, students who are fluent in English and another language, and students who may be reclassified as reclassified fluent English proficient, but are still learning and developing in multiple languages. MLL will be used throughout the rest of the guide unless we are covering information specific to the California State Preschool Program or the K-3 language classification process. Next slide, please. Now that we've explored terminology, let's take a closer look at what multilingualism means in a practical sense and why it's so critical. Multilingualism provides lifelong benefits for children and their families. Research from the Civil Rights Project at the University of California, Los Angeles shows that children in bilingual and multilingual programs often do as well or better in school than their peers in English-only programs and may be more likely to graduate. These programs also support stronger cognitive development, bilingualism, biliteracy, and importantly, long-term educational opportunities. Research consistently shows that supporting a child's home language strengthens their overall language development, builds a strong foundation for learning, and facilitates the transfer of skills across languages. According to the National Association for the Education of Young Children, or NACE, children learn best in environments that incorporate their home languages because a strong first language supports new language acquisition. Skills learned in one language also transfer to other languages, helping children build stronger vocabulary and comprehension skills. Next slide, please. There are other critical benefits as well, both to children and their families, but for society at large. Speaking multiple languages builds understanding and respect for other cultures, strengthens connections to heritage, fosters a sense of belonging, and boosts confidence. I now have the pleasure to pass it to Ashley to discuss state policies and practices to support MLLs.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you all for joining us. So now that we have explored the importance of multilingualism, we're going to expand our lens to take on the policy context of this all. So California's growing recognition that multilingualism is an asset to be nurtured rather than a deficit to be remediated created the policy framework that supports today's comprehensive approach to multilingual education from preschool through third grade and beyond. I'm going to go over three pieces of policy right now, starting with Proposition 58. So Proposition 58 is the California Education for a Global Economy initiative, which restored local flexibility to implement multilingual programs and recognize the educational and economic benefits of multilingualism. Next, we have Assembly Bill 1363, which is all about the data. So this established comprehensive data collection requirements for dual language learners in preschool settings. And then most recently, we have Assembly Bill 2268. So essentially, Assembly Bill 2268 exempted transitional kindergarten students from taking the LPAC, the English Language Proficiency Assessments for California. I want to make clear here that the reason why this happened was that the LPAC was no longer appropriate for the TK population as TK students became younger over time. Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll talk about the California English Learner Roadmap, which is our North Star, if you will. So in 2017, the California State Board of Education unanimously approved the EL Roadmap policy with the vision that English learners fully and meaningfully access and participate in a 21st century education. The EL Roadmap policy and its associated guidance strengthen comprehensive policies, programs, and practices for EL students. The roadmap puts forth 4 principles to guide all levels throughout the P-12 system towards a coherent and aligned set of practices, services, relationships, and approaches to teaching and learning for EL students. Now, these 4 principles include, number 1, assets-oriented and needs-responsive schools. Again, we're looking at multilingualism as an asset, right? Number 2, intellectual quality of instruction and meaningful access. And of course, this includes our duly identified students. Principle number 3, system conditions that support effectiveness. What systems do we have in place to make sure that our instruction is being effective? And then finally, alignment and articulation within and across systems. So as students move through the CSPP to TK to Kinder and beyond, there should be a process that is articulated throughout their journey. Additionally, the Biliteracy Pathway Recognition Program is an optional initiative designed to acknowledge preschool, kindergarten, elementary, and middle school students who demonstrate progress toward proficiency in speaking, reading, and writing in English, as well as one or more additional languages. Sorry, my voice is going out. I think there's been a bug going around, so I apologize. The Biliteracy Pathway Recognition Program includes 3 specific recognition programs, including the Biliteracy Program Participation Recognition, the Home Language Development Recognition, and the Biliteracy Attainment Recognition. Now, all of this leads to the State Seal of Biliteracy, which affirms the value of diversity and multiple cultures and languages within the community. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're moving from a policy context now to understanding how children's language status is assessed. So we're going to be going over how that works in CSPP, so the California State Preschool Program, transitional kindergarten, as well as kindergarten and beyond in the next slide. So there are processes in place for identification of these children, and educators and school staff play a crucial role in both identifying and then providing them with the support they need to develop home language and English language skills. In CSPP, contractors are to complete the family language instrument with the parent or guardian of each child no later than upon enrollment. And then if the child is identified as a dual language learner or DLL, they must also conduct the family language interest interview within 30 calendar days of enrollment. Now in TK, this looks a little bit different. So in TK, if a home language survey has a language other than English, then that student may have had multilingual experiences and should be considered a multilingual learner. The CDE at this point in time encourages educators to provide a services first approach and provide English language development support as part of a high quality experience in TK. Now, as Steve stated earlier when discussing the terminology, language screeners for TK students listening and speaking skills in English will become mandatory in the 2027-28 school year. Please keep an ear out for more forthcoming information, as that will be announced no later than March 31st on what screeners were selected. Next slide, please. Okay, now in kindergarten. So we went from CSPP to TK, now in kindergarten. Identification is legally required and ensures students get specialized instruction to access grade level content while developing English language proficiency. And if you remember the 4 principles of the EL roadmap, this is principle number 2, right? Meaningful access. So if a student is still acquiring English, it does not mean that that precludes them from accessing their instruction. So we want to make sure that while students, again, are acquiring English, that they are still able to access their core content. The primary identification is similar to TK in the sense that it starts with the home language survey and is followed by the initial LPAC or the initial alternate LPAC. I want to flag here that the alternate LPAC is only for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. At the end of the school year, students will also take the summative LPAC or the summative alternate LPAC, and this will occur on an annual basis until reclassification occurs. Next slide, please. All right. So while California has beautiful aspirations in recognizing the benefits of multilingual programs, sometimes it comes up and butts against the reality of the situation. So insufficient staffing has been an ongoing barrier to expanding access to multilingual programs. In order to address these workforce challenges, the CDE released funding for the Bilingual Teacher Professional Development Program, also known as the BTPDP, say that 10 times fast, which provides $20 million through the 2028-29 fiscal year to ensure that California can meet the demand for multilingual teachers necessary for the implementation of dual language and other multilingual education programs. So essentially, we are seeing a demand for the dual language programs or multilingual programs, and now we're trying to increase our multilingual workforce. Additionally, Global California 2030, a CDE initiative to equip students with world language skills for a global economy and diverse cultures, establishes a goal of increasing the number of bilingual teacher authorizations approved each year to 2,000 by the year 2030. Now, to give more context here, in the year 2023 to 24, the Commission on Teaching Credentialing issued 1,370 bilingual teacher authorizations, which was up from the 1,014 the year prior. So again, this just reveals a continued increase in bilingual teacher authorization, both the increase in the desire to receive that, but also really watching California as we aim to support this special population. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have identified a student's language needs, but now what? So what are the language support programs available? The CDE envisions equipping students with world language skills that empower them to engage with diverse cultures, honor their own heritages, and succeed in the global economy. CDE offers research-based programs that develop English in additional language proficiency, cross-cultural understanding, and academic achievement. So essentially, we are aiming to equip students with skills for success in a global economy. Multilingual program models across the P3 continuum can be used to support multilingual learners, including dual language immersion, which is 2A, transitional bilingual, developmental bilingual, one-way immersion, heritage or indigenous language, foreign language elementary experience, and foreign language in elementary schools. Now, there should be links coming in the chat with more information on all of those models, because if you were anything like me a few years ago, those were kind of brand new terms. So very fascinating to look into what each of those are. Additionally, CSPP programs are required to provide information to the CDE about what language model they use as part of the PLIS data reporting requirements. So these models include a 50-50 model, other language allotment model, majority English, other allotment, so majority non-English, home language support, and other language programs. Next slide, please. Okay, so we went all the way from policy and then the workforce, and now we're kind of trickling down to the daily grind of it. So what are the best practices to support multilingual learners in the classroom? So number one, we really want to strive to create a language-rich environment. And during this developmental stage, this really looks like promoting play-based interactions. Not only does this ensure opportunities for multilingual children, but it really helps all children and can enhance their language skills. When educators leverage children's home language as an asset, then they can help to accelerate each child's acquisition of a new one. So we are encouraging students to make connections between their first language and the language of instruction through translanguaging. Furthermore, when educators scaffold instruction intentionally for multilingual learners, it allows them to tackle challenging content without being overwhelmed. So effective scaffolding involves breaking down lessons into manageable chunks and gradually building up the children's knowledge and skills. Perhaps one of my favorite, UDL. So educators who embrace universal design for learning and differentiated or individualized instruction, for example, are better prepared to support all children by addressing diversity in learning styles and differences in base knowledge. In addition, when educators create and cultivate a culturally inclusive classroom or program, multilingual learners are more likely to feel a sense of belonging and community. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to pause here, given our current political climate, that it's really, really important that we are intentionally building and cultivating that culturally inclusive classroom. For multilingual learners, as well as all children, feeling valued and represented within the classroom or program is fundamental to their motivation and engagement. So we really want to make sure that we're building a community. And then finally, when educators build family partnerships, they are better able to understand children's backgrounds, and families become active contributors to their child's learning progress. I'm now going to pass it back to Valentina, who will introduce our guest speaker for the day. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Ashley. That was such a great introduction to our P3 guide for supporting multilingual learners, really highlighting not only the rich content within the resource, but also why multilingualism is a valuable asset. And I just love that you pause to really recognize building that safe space for children in the schools and programs, given the current climate that we're in right now. Now, we're excited to transition to our guest speaker, who will take us deeper into the ways practitioners and programs can support multilingual learners in P3 settings. After the presentation, we'll briefly highlight a few key strategies from the toolkit before moving into our panel discussion. It is now my honor to introduce Lisbeth Woodington. Lisbeth has 20 years of experience in education. Before joining Catalyst California as the multilingual learning specialist, she served as a dual language learner teacher in both California and New York. A first-generation graduate, Lisbeth brings a bilingual and bicultural perspective to her work, holding a BA from UC Berkeley and a master's from Columbia University. I will now pass it to Lisbeth. Thank you so much, Lisbeth, for being here with us today. We appreciate you so much. We can go ahead and go to the next slide.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be part of this webinar today. Very excited to be here. And to start, I want to acknowledge that we have enormous expertise present, as many of you may already use some of these practices and are here because you deeply care about serving multilingual learners. For some, this information might be new, and for others, this is going to affirm and name practices and strategies that you already use. Today, I'm going to discuss in more detail practices to support multilingual development. And 3 foundational areas for practice are partnerships, environment, and instruction. I find it's helpful to visualize and think about these 3 areas as a cycle, informing each other and working together to support multilingual development. Next slide, please. So for partnerships, I'll be focusing on community and family partnerships. Families and communities are natural partners in this work and are an incredible resource. And it's important to start with affirming multilingualism, reminding that families and community members that children are fully capable of acquiring more than one language. This looks like listening to families' concerns and hopes, responding to their questions, keeping the dialogue open, and providing them with resources to clarify any misconceptions around multilingualism. Next, think about creating ongoing connections. We want to have those opportunities for families to connect to the learning so that they feel plugged into what children are working on. And this could look a lot of ways, like inviting families to view work in progress instead of feeling like you have to wait for those final projects, sending home written communications, or sharing updates and highlights via email. And something that I'm so grateful has really improved is online translation tools. And this technology makes translating written materials much more accessible. So when it's possible, translating communications into home languages sends a supportive and inviting message to families. And the other piece is incorporating families into the learning. So as you consider, your units of study or content areas, look for ways to weave in the community's unique ways of knowing. This is also known as funds of knowledge. This includes the types of work represented in the neighborhood, cultural traditions practiced at home, and building in opportunities to connect key vocabulary and phrases in both English and the home language. Next slide, please. Next, I want to discuss the importance of creating a language-rich environment. So first, I want to talk about oracy. And this is another way of saying speaking. And we often think about reading and writing, but oracy is also a critical part of language development, especially in young multilingual children. creating a supported space where students can engage in low stress oracy practice that includes talk, poetry, music, bringing in real objects that spark conversation. I know in my settings, I would sometimes use objects that I found in nature, like seashells, pine cones, leaves, to spark observation and discussion, and plan for multimodal learning. And Universal Design for Learning, which was mentioned earlier, is one place to find excellent online resources for this. Something else that I'm passionate about, multilingual books. They're so important, and they can be any genre: fiction, nonfiction, picture books, wordless picture books. With some of my classes, we would sometimes make our own simple books where each child contributed a page with their own illustration or words, and it could be in English or their home language. And these were incredibly popular. Simple, but the children would enjoy them throughout the year. Multilingual books are also an opportunity to do read alouds and invite loved ones to read a book in their home language. If family members can't join because of scheduling and other commitments, they can send in photos or a video reading with their child at home that can be shared with the children. And I feel like this is always delightful. I think the children really enjoy sharing their literacy experiences from home. And the other piece is purposeful labels. Labeling, in the classroom, it's a lot of work. So if you can thoughtfully consider what should be labeled in the classroom and what languages are represented, and you can start with just a few labels and then get input from the children. Observe how they use the space. What ideas do they have for labeling? Is there any way they can help? And by doing this, you communicate and demonstrate to them that the labels are made for them and for them to use. Next slide, please. And this third area, instructional practice, I want to talk about some specific strategies for multilingual learners. The first one is, encouraging that peer-to-peer interaction. Peers can offer wonderful support in multilingual development. And this connects back to that oracy and those opportunities to engage. It's important for children to see not only their teachers, but also their peers as language resources. And one way to encourage peer interaction and exchange is creating, for example, a buddy system where children can do activities and routines in pairs. The next piece is collaborative activities, which connects to the peer-to-peer interaction. You want to continue building on that and plan for exercises and activities that require collaboration and teamwork. So for example, this could look like using a teacher choice material and let children build and design in an open-ended way, and just supporting them through problem solving and practicing communication. And just know that these types of collaborations, they can tie into the curriculum, or they can be open-ended and part of choice time or stations. And the next piece is supporting comprehension. Supporting comprehension, I want to underscore, is an intentional practice. Teachers should carefully consider ways to provide what is called comprehensible input, which supports students to understand even if they don't know every word. Some ways to start is by ensuring you're using a visual schedule. Include visuals in lessons such as photos and drawings, using gestures, patiently listening to children, identifying key vocabulary that you can weave throughout the day, and engaging learning environment with many opportunities to listen, read, and participate through hands-on activities. I want to go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And as I close our time here, I just want to, I want us to think back to that visual of the cycle and consider how one area can inform the others. So for example, in your setting, how can partnerships with families and communities impact your environment and your instruction? And as a suggestion, I would say start by identifying your interest. You can jot down these 3 areas and start by picking one area that you'd like to focus on. And as you begin, notice and observe how that area that you're focused on connects and enhances the others. From my experience, I found that keeping a notebook where I could write quick notes or thoughts, reflections, ideas, it helped me remember those important observations because our days are full. There's a lot happening at once. Um, so as you gather that valuable information, decide when you feel ready to build in a new strategy or try a new area for practice. I think what's really key is to start and take those steady steps towards supporting multilingualism, not to overwhelm yourself or feel like it's too much at once, just one step at a time. So I hope that this information is helpful for you and the children that you serve. And I'll end by saying thank you so much for your attention and for all the work you do supporting multilingual learners.
Thank you so much, Lisbeth. That was amazing. We could go ahead and go over to the next slide. Looks like you're getting a lot of love in the chat. I love that you provided such practical strategies and tied it up with the best thing is to start, right? Because sometimes starting could be the hardest step of the process. It's just like the beginning of the new year. People have New Year's resolutions, and a lot of times it's, I'm going to go to the gym. Well, sometimes the hardest step is walking out the door. So starting is always the best place to start, right? Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Your insights were truly powerful, and just the reflections on the importance of what multilingualism is and why we should be supporting it. So thank you so much. And I know that any of the educators that are here are definitely going to appreciate those practical strategies that you could bring into your classroom and begin to use whenever you are able to, because as you said, they are busy. All right. So now that we've explored the why, let's continue with the shift to how and discuss some of the strategies within the P3 MLL guide to explore how can we put these values into practice in our schools and programs. The first strategy is to adopt a clear vision that values multilingualism as an asset and is responsive to the diverse strengths, needs, and identities of all students. Secondly, foster strong family and community partnerships. Lisbeth did touch on this, and it is so critical for you to be able to build those strong family and community partnerships so that families feel safe coming to your program and also sending their children to you as well. Third, to build the conditions for educator success by committing to home language development and providing educators with high quality, research-based strategies and professional learning to support their implementation, not just checkoffs. This is a continuous process, and professional development is critical to be able to support our multilingual learners. Next slide, please. Thank you. The fourth strategy is to seek continuous improvement and feedback, including through self-reflective practices to identify and address implicit biases, while acknowledging how systemic biases perpetuate the oppression of historically marginalized groups. So definitely some self-reflective practices. And lastly, utilize transition processes to ensure that elementary educators have knowledge about children's language development and what language supports they have experienced in preschool if the child did come from preschool. Next slide, please. Thank you. Before we move into our panel discussion, I'd like to introduce you to a key resource within the P3 MLL guide. These are the 7 steps for establishing and implementing multilingual support policies and practices. These steps offer a practical roadmap for schools and programs to move from intention to action, ensuring that multilingualism is embedded in everyday practice. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now that we've introduced the importance of developing and implementing effective multilingual policies and practices, let's take a closer look at the 7 steps outlined in the P3 MLL guide. These steps provide a clear and actionable framework to help programs move from intention to implementation, like I said earlier. Now, these steps are assess current policies and practices related to supporting multilingual learners, as you will see on this slide, And then step 2 is identify multilingual support improvement goals, because nobody's perfect and we all have a place where we could strive to get better, right? And for 3, identify strategies to support improvement, because we do need support to be able to improve our programs, correct? For number 4, seek input from interest holders. Next slide, please. Thank you. Step 5, identify implementation partners and co-construct a timeline. So you're working together. And step 6, implement the policies and procedures. And for step 7, evaluate and improve, because again, this is an ongoing process. To learn more about these steps that I just shared, please check out the P-3 Guide to Supporting Multilingual Learners, a preschool through 3rd grade toolkit towards the back, where you will find additional tools, templates, and resources to support your program. And also, too, these tools are editable, so you can definitely make them work for your unique program, because every program is going to be different. Next slide, please. Thank you. To support your efforts in strengthening multilingual policies and practices, the tools and templates in the P3 MLL guide do align with the 7-step process that we just addressed in the previous slides. One key resource is the multi-page self-assessment tool designed to help you evaluate your current policies and practices and identify those areas for growth. Here on this slide are just a few of the tools included in the P3 MLL guide, aside from what I just shared earlier. We have the Multilingual Support Policies and Practices Self-Assessment tool. We also have the Sample Communication to Families to get you started, because that's key. We want to get started if you haven't already. And we also have Educator Resource on Language Classification from preschool through 3rd grade. These resources are designed to be adaptable and practical, whether you're just getting started or refining existing efforts. Next slide, please. All right, we're actually running a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great because that gives us more time for our panel discussion at the end. Now we're going to go ahead and move into our panel discussion. So to start the next slide, I will go ahead and introduce our moderator for the day. Next slide, please. Thank you. We are pleased to welcome Patty Chavez as the moderator for today's panel discussion. Now, Patty Chavez joined SEAL in 2022 and brings more than 25 years of experience advancing early learning through partnerships, storytelling, and systems level work across education and community sectors. I love all the hearts that are coming in for Patty. That is amazing. Just keep them going, because we all get a little bit nervous when we're on these webinars, and the positive feedback is wonderful. Patty has led cross-sector efforts to strengthen early learning and transitional kindergarten, and is especially passionate about connecting research, practice, and policy in ways that truly support educators and communities. Her work centers on elevating multilingualism as an asset. I love emphasizing asset because it is definitely a mind shift for some people sometimes, and supporting home languages as the foundation for identity, learning, and long-term success in P3 settings. Patty is a first generation and first in her family to earn advanced degrees, including a master's in communication management from the University of Southern California. Today, she's excited to be here with us to continue advancing joyful, language-rich learning for all students. She'll be introducing our panelists, who will share their insights and expertise on today's topic of supporting multilingual learners in preschool through 3rd grade. Thank you so much, Patty, for joining us today. We're really excited for you to lead this important conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and have us go to the next slide, and you can introduce our panelists for the day. Thank you so much.
Wow, what a welcome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I am truly honored to be here today with a lot of friends and partners. I know a lot of you at home and in your schools to be part of this really important discussion where we're going to be talking about centering families and communities just to strengthen P3 alignment. So I'm honored to introduce our panelists, and I'm going to start with Ani Nicholas, who has proudly served the Los Angeles Unified School District for the past 23 years. Throughout her career, she has worn many hats in the early childhood division, including substitute teacher, 3-hour assistant, uh, substitute teacher, substitute assistant, lead teacher, and a mentor teacher for the Los Angeles Mission College. She has also contributed her expertise as CGI math coach, and for the last 6 years, she has had the privilege of serving as principal. She firmly believes that the first 5 years of a child's life are crucial, and as they significantly influence the next 80 years. She is deeply committed to supporting early childhood development, recognizing that 90% of brain development occurs during this vital period. Hello, Ani. Thank you for joining us. Next, I'm going to introduce Rebecca Flores Acosta. Has been in the early childhood education field for over 35 years. She is currently a preschool teacher and a site supervisor. Tough jobs, tough jobs. Rebecca is also a certified preschool GLAD trainer and remains committed to continuous learning to become an even better teacher for her students. Welcome, Rebecca. Next slide, please. Next, we have Dr. Jennifer Jacob, Senior Director of Educational Services, Chief Academic Official at Delhi Unified School District, who brings over 32 years of experience as a teacher, as a principal, and district leader. She focuses on instructional leadership, literacy, and language development to create equitable, high-quality learning environments. Jennifer leads district-wide initiatives aligned with the English Learner Roadmap and SEAL's full model, collaborating with educators to strengthen systems for English learners and all students. She is a passionate advocate for equity and instructional coherence. Welcome, Jennifer. And finally, we have Eric Griffin. Eric is the superintendent of Delhi Unified School District, leading with a focus on student achievement, organizational coherence, and connected school culture. With experience as a teacher, site administrator, and district leader, Eric is known for his collaborative approach and commitment to continuous improvement. He is passionate about building strong teams and systems that support academic excellence and student well-being. Welcome all. Next slide, please. So we're here today, and we're going to give you a little sneak peek on the 4 questions that we're going to be asking our panelists, who are going to share their insight and their knowledge and take us on their journey. Questions will include, they will share about the multilingual learning strategy, activity, or that initiative that they're most proud of and how it positively impacted their programs. Look forward to that inspiration. Next, we're going to talk about specific ways their program successfully cultivated diversity, equity, and belonging for our multilingual learners. We'll also they'll also share about challenges. We all know challenges are also opportunities, but those challenges that their program has overcome in supporting multilingual learners and how that experience strengthened their approach. And then finally, we're going to close with some long-term and short-term goals for their program, and how it's working toward strengthening and sustaining meaningful supports for multilingual learners. So now we're going to take out the slides. We're going to see our friends here and have a conversation. Welcome all. Hello. So to get us started, a little process. We'll probably select one of you to start off our question, and then the rest of you can just jump on in. And really, this is a discussion for all our friends at home also to follow in. So Ani, I'm going to start with you and our first question to kick us off. And our first question is, what multilingual learning strategy, activity, or initiative are you most proud of, and how has it positively impacted your programs?
Well, our Enchanting Preschool Pinewood EEC started an Armenian dual language program 3 years ago. My dedicated team does the work with fire in their heart. None of the curriculum or resources come in Armenian, so it is a huge undertaking for my team. One of the strategies that I see them utilizing on a daily basis that I'm a huge fan of is a seal strategy, draw, tell, label. And it is a wonderful way of introducing the rich academic vocabulary through visual representation. The words may seem abstract when kiddos first hear it, but when they see the visual representation, it becomes more concrete and then easily able to retain long term. Another one of my favorite SEAL strategies that we utilize is revamping of the environment. So for every study, we redo the dramatic play area, sensory tables, science area, block area, books, writing. And for example, this week we started the wheel study, and our dramatic play is a mechanic shop. The science table is a tire center. So when the kiddos are exploring the environment, the intentional instructional team is feeding them that rich academic vocabulary again. So hands on, minds on. Through the power of play, it's solidifying the words that they are learning. I'm a huge proponent and advocate of the power of play and protecting play. And I think that Albert Einstein said it best, where play is the highest form of research.
Like to share at in my school district in our preschool, we use the preschool GLAD strategies, which is guided language acquisition design. One of the things that I really appreciate about is using the real pictures. We have a variety of students that speak other languages, and I don't speak that many languages. I speak a couple or a few. So the real pictures and having the children hold the real pictures as we discuss whatever we're learning, and they can see what it is, think about it in their own language as they're learning English and learning about whatever we're teaching. So a lot of the classrooms in Twin Rivers do use the preschool GLAD strategies.
In our district, we use the instructional model of SEAL. We started with transitional kindergarten through our interest holders and partners of McGlatchy Foundation and began SEAL preschool and have incrementally added the SEAL instructional model in kindergarten to fourth grade. And the strategies, as Ani mentioned, the strategies are amazing. The drawn label, that the students actually have access to, the books that we've supported our teachers with purchasing books that are like mirrors instead of windows. We also, one of our models as well earlier that was talked about was the multilingual or dual language model, which transitioned from an 80-20 through a 2-year process of bringing in a DLI task force to really sit through and look at research, identify what are our practices, are we an 80-20 and 90-10, and transitioned eventually to a 50-50 model in which our teachers have collaborative opportunities where they have cross alignment on meta-languaging, translanguaging, and really learning about bridging within the dual language program.
I'm fortunate enough to work in the same district as Jennifer. So, I'm proud of a lot of the same things that she said. But from my perspective as the superintendent of our district, I would say, in addition to all those things that Dr. Yacoub highlighted, I'm just super proud that, this process of changing our instructional model to 50-50, of adopting SEAL as our classroom instructional model, of all these things. It's really just kind of put a focus within our teachers on how to best serve our multilingual learners, right? So, I won't lie and say that there hasn't been some pushback in some areas and a little bit of feelings of being overwhelmed with the workload that comes with using these really, really powerful instructional strategies. But the benefit is that our teachers are engaging in those conversations with us. They're engaging with conversations with content area experts, with language learning experts, and they're really fine-tuning their instructional practices to make sure that they are meeting the needs of our students. And that includes, involving our parents and our community more in the classroom and and really strengthening our communication and our homeschool partnership. And it also has, as an added benefit, has allowed us to update our multilingual master plan, which was really outdated, and to bring us up to current with that and incorporate some of those best practices into our day-to-day operations here.
Thank you, Eric. That was wonderful. And I think that brings us straight into this next question. You talked about bringing families in. It really is about community, about belonging. And this question really is going to talk about that and the ways that maybe specifically you're bringing, using that. So Rebecca, we're going to start with you. And the question is, what are some specific ways your program has successfully cultivated diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging? Eric talked about families belonging for your multilingual learners.
We ask the parents in our program, we have a lot of children that don't speak English. English is not their home language, and the families come in. We ask them to give us some key words so that way their child can be successful. Using the restroom, water, hungry, if they miss their parents, just keywords. And we write those down phonetically so that we can understand it, myself and my co-teacher. And then we share those with other kids too. So during circle time, if somebody says they want water, we will say the word in their language. And then the other kids will repeat the word saying, oh, in this child's home, this is what they say. And so we do that so that other kids everybody feels included, and the parents really appreciate this because we're including their home in our classroom, and we're bringing what they have shared with us, and then they're happy when they hear other children say a word in their home language when they come out and drop off and pick up. The other thing we do is we ask them. And our words change every year because we have a different set of children every year. Some years we'll have Dari and Pashto. Some years we'll have just Spanish, or, we have added Mongolian. We've had so many other languages in that small environment in the preschool classroom, and children are excited to learn that. So it changes depending on the children that are in the classroom. And the other thing we do is we ask parents, what are their wishes about language in our classroom? And so going there, we're asking them, we have a conversation with them about the benefits of multilingualism, because some parents, they feel we're here, we should just use English. And our conversations are very honest. We're like, if you do not speak your home language, your child may lose their culture, because there's some words that we don't say in English. And I always remind parents gently, I will teach your child English. You teach your child your home language and your culture, because I can't do that. I'm not from wherever you may be. And then it opens up the window and the door and the opportunity to look like, yeah, we don't want our little ones to lose our culture, because there's some words that are not in English, that are in different languages, and it's pronounced different, and the feeling and the emotion that comes with it. So it's really nice to have that. And in our district, we're fortunate that we use Hannah. It's a telephone service where if I'm having a difficult conversation or any conversation and there are communication problems, we're able to say, we're going to call, and we put it on speakerphone. The parent understands what I'm saying. I'm understanding what the parent's saying, and I can do it anytime as needed. So that's a wonderful benefit that we have to connect with the families.
Thank you, Rebecca, for that. Much like Rebecca said, our parents are our assets, much like our children are. And so really working with our parent community, ensuring their involvement, providing opportunities for them to engage. Some of the things that we are very proud of in our district is we have a Parent Leadership Institute, where we have 33 members who went through a training process, and their goal is to be involved in the community and for them to take on different projects within the community. For example, tonight we have a board meeting, and so many of those parents will be at the board meeting to learn about the governance of how a board meeting is run. We have our DLI task force in which parents are engaged within the DLI task force, everything, all our research, all our policies, all the articles that we actually provide our parents are translated. We have concurrent translator that is present at those meetings. In addition to everything that they read is translated as well. And so they're very engaged in decision making. One of our LCAP goals is that our parents give us feedback on whether or not they are heard regarding any decisions that are being made in our district. And so we do a survey ensuring that parents are feeling heard. And I think one of our biggest celebrations is our LCAP survey that started for LCAP Festival. And that started 4 years ago, and we do it 2 times a year. And our goal there is to ensure that our families know about the transparency behind our LCAP, the goals, the actions, as well as our budgets within the LCAP and what we're spending them on. And in fall, we had about 1,200 members of our community at our LCAP Festival. So that is one of our other Delhi Pride moments.
Yeah, and Jennifer mentioned Delhi Pride. I would say that's another source of pride is that actual initiative that we started this year called Delhi Pride, and it was a twofold initiative. Number one being, Pride is an acronym that stands for purpose-driven work, rigorous teaching and learning, inclusion by default, discipline, and empowerment. But it also is literally about establishing a sense of pride in our schools, within our students, within our staff, within the parents and families that we serve, and within our broader community. And so, as a part of that process and that initiative, we've done a lot of work to really build those bridges between our schools and the community, both in official ways. For example, like the LCAP Festival that Dr. Yakub mentioned, and also we started a new program this year that we call our Community Engagement Liaisons. And those are just basically a group of really involved parents that we tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, we know that you like being involved in the schools. It seems like you appreciate the work that we're doing and are really aligned with what we're trying to do here. But we're having trouble reaching some of our families, right? Sometimes there's a language barrier that prevents our families from coming into our school offices. Sometimes, especially in recent months, sometimes parents are worried about immigration concerns and things like that. So they don't want to come to our schools for fear of being caught up in something like that. So, there's lots of real issues that are preventing families from engaging in ways that we might expect them to. And so we tried to think of creative ways to push our support out into the community and push our communication out as well. Because what we found is that families were getting information. It just wasn't always correct, right? We know that there's Facebook groups, there's all these different social media that families love to share thoughts, but it's not always the information that we as the district would like them to have. So the idea behind these community engagement liaisons was to capitalize on the pride that those people have in our schools, to spread that pride far and wide in our community, to spread messages for us, to when they're at the birthday party over the weekend and they hear something that's incorrect, to correct it, or if they have a question from a neighbor, to answer it for us with information that we provide in a way that's more accessible to our families. So that's been our thought behind that group of people, is just to really, continue to build those bridges with our community.
Bonnie, did you want to add anything before I move forward?
Sure. I think the key word for me in your question was belonging. And our families have shared, the feedback has been that there is a sense of belonging in the dual language classroom. It's more than a preschool classroom for them, it's a hub, it's a community. They've made strong connections with one another. They plan trips outside of school with each other, uh, outings for the theme park, home visits. They've even gone as far as adding one another on the emergency card. So, in case one of them can't make it to school, the other family member steps in and picks up their kiddo. So, it's truly like extension of their village for them. Our kiddos in the dual language classroom start when they're 4 years old, and they decide to continue a second year cycle in the same classroom for TK, and that bond deepens even further. And together they decide which elementary school that they're going to transfer to, so they continue with their dual language feeder journey, which is a huge testament to the magic that's going on in the classroom.
Well, this is all wonderful. And going into our third question, and I heard you all say it, it's not always easy, right? You are creating magic. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. But you're creating beautiful, special, magical places that are joyful of learning. And we all grow. So our third question is, Jennifer, I'm going to start with you. The question is, can you share a challenge your program has overcome in supporting multilingual learners, and how has that experience strengthened your approach?
Well, as wonderful as the SEAL initiative has been in our district, and the results are amazing, we have had some challenges. And some of those challenges have really been the mind shift of instructional change that a SEAL requires. And we know that the shift has been from so much curriculum dependency to more instructional strategy implementation that at times can be challenging because it requires a lot of work and a lot of preparation ahead of time and a lot of planning. And so our superintendent, Eric, who came into our district most recently, brought in the opportunity for each and every teacher to give input of what are their challenges, what are their pluses, what are their challenges, what are their questions, and through different means of communication, one being a survey, another one being an in-person meeting with administrators and teacher leaders, and really just going over what are some of our challenges, how can we overcome them, where can we actually do some compromise. And we have really great teachers, and everybody wants to work hard, everybody wants it to be perfect, and we know that implementation of any kind takes time. It takes, research shows, 4 to 6 years to really implement effectively any curriculum, any program, any systemic change. So I feel that through this continuous conversation, collaboration, opportunities for folks to really transparently speak to each other in a collegial manner has really helped our district to. We haven't completely overcome because challenges continue to come, but we have found ways in which we can make that communication more effective.
Yeah, just to add on to that a little bit, from my perspective as a new person coming into this district at the top level, right? It was interesting for me to see the challenges that we were encountering with SEAL, because a lot of what I heard over and over again was the strategies are really great and they're really having a meaningful impact with our students. It's just the time. It's the time it takes to prep the materials. We're having to write our own curriculum, is what they say. It's just the time, and then also the time in the day. Where do we fit it in? What do we cut? Where do we trim? What do we move around? So I come at it from a slightly different perspective than some administrators, in that, I try to always remind myself I'm a teacher at heart. I came up as a teacher. My parents are both teachers. I've got tons of family that are teachers. So if I do anything that's not good for teachers, I hear about it, believe me. So, it's important to continuously remind ourselves of the struggles that our teachers are experiencing every day, to have that empathy for them, right? So when I was a teacher myself, I used Project GLAD strategies, and I understand how difficult it is to create those charts that you're going to be using with the students, to plan out those units that are incorporate all the different language functions and all that stuff. So our teachers are working hard. They're not making this up. They're not being lazy, and it's about kind of reminding them that. And I've had to have this conversation with our union leadership as well, we have to give ourselves a little grace because, as administrators, we're not walking through our classrooms with a checklist saying, oh, you didn't do this SEAL strategy, or that one, you didn't say the right word at the right time, or something like that, and you're fired now. It's about learning ourselves, right? Our teachers are going through this process, many for the first time this year, and they're expecting perfection from the go. And that's just not how it works when you're having to put so much thought and effort into designing your curriculum materials. It's about giving ourselves the professional courtesy and the grace to understand that it may not be perfect the first time, but the fact that we're focusing on strategies that are good for multilingual learners is a step in the right direction. And now we just have to keep walking down that path. So we can choose to do that hand in hand with our teachers, or we can choose to do that in a foot race with them. And someone's going to get burned out at the end of that, right? So if we do hand in hand, we can pull each other along so that, the end result is we cross the finish line and we give the best support to our multilingual learners.
Agree with you, Eric, on that as a preschool teacher in the classroom. And Jennifer, the thing is, the time. When we started Preschool GLAD several years ago, getting the time and the support because it's so time consuming. And as a teacher, as you're saying, teachers want to get it right. We want to know what we're doing. We were very fortunate that under our the person that was there at the time, they allowed the trainers to come into our classrooms as we were doing the strategies and get the support and the knowledge to make sure, are we doing it to the best benefit of the students in our classroom? Are we doing the strategies correctly? What are some things we could tweak because we didn't know what we didn't know? So we had that wonderful opportunity from administration saying, yeah, you know what? We want the trainers to go into the classroom. And then after that, we realized the time, and we said, we as teachers want to do this, but the time consumption and the materials and the money, and they're like, no, we're going to give you time to come to the office. They picked out a time, and so that the teachers can go in there. We actually, best part, we got paid. Our time was, we were validated by being compensated financially. We got to use the printers and the laminators to create the units because and I know that there was a couple sites that were doing SIL, and so it's so much work with GLAD and SIL, and teachers do want to do it, and we do want to do it right, and we do want the children to learn. So giving that time to do it and being financially compensated because administrators understand that you're not going to do this on your old time because your whole weekend is going to be dedicated to it. So that respect for the teachers. And then, so then we were given the materials and then to be able to say, okay, are we doing it right? And continual support, somebody going into the classroom and supporting the teacher saying, oh yeah, I'm seeing you're doing it this way. That's wonderful. These are additional steps you can add. And as a certified trainer for GLAD, it's important that teachers get that and they get that positive feedback because compliments and positive feedback in a teacher's point of view, they will carry you for the rest of the week, for the rest of the month, just those little things. And, because I'm really fortunate that the principal at my school, she'll come in and she's like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is wonderful. Look at the kids are learning. Just once in a while, those little things to know that what we're doing is making a difference and it's being recognized. So those are some of the things that we've done. And then having the support from the administrators saying, yeah, you know what, you do a lot and we want to make sure that we give you the time and the financial compensation to do that.
Well, one of our challenges is related to a goal of ours for this year, which was to have a sister school in Armenia. We wanted our kiddos to connect with students just like themselves, preschoolers, in a classroom environment via Zoom. We wanted them to interact with one another, speak to one another in the target language, sing together, watch each other's instruction. Our challenge
the 12-hour time difference. So we are now brainstorming on how to pivot. So we're thinking of doing a written correspondence, drawings, handmade gifts for one another, and pre-recorded classroom interactions.
12-hour time difference. That's a commitment. That is a commitment. Thank you all. Well, we're rounding off to our last question, and this is really thinking about the future and words of wisdom that you can leave us all with. So, Eric, I'm going to start with you to round us off. And question is, what are some long-term or short-term goals your program is working toward to strengthen and sustain meaningful supports for multilingual learners?
Yeah, thank you for that. I would say that for our district, we're working to establish a culture shift across the board. And the goal for us is to kind of realign and refocus on coherence as a district, and also our purpose of why we're here. You know, why are we even here in these buildings, on these campuses? And that includes, you know, refocusing all the way from our part-time groundskeeper all the way up to top level administration, and reminding them that each and every person in our system plays a pivotal role in our students' education. I think a lot of times people who don't necessarily work directly in the classroom, either because people tell them or because that's just the mindset that develops, that they don't make a meaningful impact on students' educational progress. And that's just not true. You know, without every member of our team, we could not function daily, and we could not provide the opportunities that we provide for our students. So refocusing on that is the big shift that we're having. And then, you know, more specifically focusing on the needs of these groups that maybe have been historically underserved, such as our multilingual learners and other groups that we have in our student population. And really focusing on the services and the supports that we're providing to them. And then, you know, the biggest goal that we're also working on is, it's not about making the work, kind of contrary to everything that I said previously, it's not about making the work easier on the adults in the system. It's about doing what's best for our kids. So, you know, a lot of districts, and ours included, when I first came in here, I was told, you know, we have this really audacious goal of moving our proficiency level from, I think at the time it was like 19% proficiency in English language arts and not much better in math. And our goal was to move it to 43% and 53%. And when I heard that, I said, yeah, I would say that that's an audacious goal, but not necessarily audacious in the way that it was intended, right? Because it's disrespectful to our students, to our families, and to our teachers, our professionals that are working hard every day to make an impact for those students. The only audacious goal, in the good sense of the word, is 100%, right? We need to make sure that we are shooting for 100% of our students to make the expected proficiency goals. Because otherwise, what are we doing here? You know, when we shoot for anything less than that, we're saying that every other student that's not included in that 50%, so the other half of our students, we're okay with failure. And that's just not okay with me. And that's the shift that we're trying to make in our district, is to refocus that, you know, that's a difficult goal to attain, as it should be. And we need every single person on board.
Thank you for that. I think one of the other things that I want to impart is that we have a mindset in our district, as all of our districts have a lot of compliances that we have plans to write, the LCAP plan, the multilingual master plan. We have so many varying compliances across our state and within our district that we need to implement. And our goal in Delhi has been, in the last couple of years, that we move from compliance to real life application. Now, yes, we write the LCAP, and that is a very critical plan, and it's an accountability that each system has to our state, as we should. However, how is that going to be real when it comes to implementation at the site level, in the classroom level, at the student level. And it's the same with multilingual master plan. It's the same with any policy that comes out. You know, we had numerous policies that came out in January. What do those mean, and how do we apply them in our everyday situation and with all of our students? So from compliance to real life application is what's so critical. And the other thing is looking at them with a step-by-step implementation. That yes, we are going to do them. The multilingual master plan has multiple components of the EL roadmap. However, where do we begin with implementation? So looking at the short-term pieces of implementation we can do within that plan, and then what are some long-term that we need to create some long-term goals for. So it's really kind of implementing things incrementally through that lens of real life application.
And once again, from a teacher perspective, I love everything that everybody's saying. I really appreciate it as a teacher. As a teacher, I think to get more training and support. And because if you're doing a strategy of any or doing your curriculum and you're doing it wrong consistently, you continue to do it wrong because you don't know what the right way is to do it. But when you get that support, whether it's somebody coming into a classroom or you have somebody in the field where you're like, hey, I've been doing it like this. If I send you a recording of me, can you tell me if I'm doing it okay or not? From your colleagues or trainers, then you like, oh, because, you know, when I first started Preschool Glad, I did it wrong 100%. And now I'm a trainer because I got the support to do it correctly, and it felt good. And I think the other thing, long-term goals would be continued support, like over the summers, when there's summer PDs, have like academies in whatever strategies that are being used in the district to say we're going to dive deeper. We're not just going to, I know you did what you did. We're going to dive deeper, and you can get more meat as a teacher from different trainers, and you can have some of that time in the summer to work on some of your curriculum, because we said, like, all of these take a long time. And then also respecting that it's outside of contracted hours, so teachers get financially compensated and they improve their skills and they become better teachers, and they understand where these children are in their classroom, and to be able to implement everything to the best of their ability. Because I think most of us teachers, we are perfectionists and we want right, but given the time to do it. So I see that from the teacher perspective. So I think when administrators support that, we are very much heard.
And to piggyback on what you're saying, Rebecca, for myself as well, long-term goal, continuous professional development for the dual language instructional team, not just the teacher, but along with her assistants as well. And short-term goals, continuous formal and informal observations done by me so that I can provide resources and support. I'm no longer the one that produces the product, rather supports those that do. So that is my role, right? And of course, our sister school in Armenia. So we're going to continue working on that as well.
Yay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Those are amazing 4 questions. We're wrapping up. I'm going to try to do my best to bring it all together for us. But one first is a thank you to all our panelists for giving us your gift of knowledge and your insight. As the daughter of a retired preschool teacher and director, and also, my dad, preschool was a long time ago for me, but I still remember trying to get my dad into the classroom, and as an immigrant, and it was hard for him. I didn't realize how hard it was for him. So I just feel so blessed to be here with all of you, and especially during this time that we're creating this for our families. So a quick wrap up, if we look at it, really what struck me across all these questions, I have some sound bites for you. We heard fire in their heart. Educators, you all have fire in your heart. We love that. Power of play, bringing in real photos into the classroom, creating a sense of pride, giving grace. Isn't that beautiful? Crossing the finish line together. I love that too. Compliance to real life to real life application. That is just beautiful. We started off with the question just about how intentional it is to start early, yeah, to working with our littles and creating those opportunities, not just for our students, but our families as well. Um, then we talked about belonging and equity, an example of how we are inviting families to share key words. I love that, Rebecca, talking about key words so families feel comfortable in asking them what they'd like, really bringing them along with us. To Jennifer and Eric sharing about the DLI task force, the LCAP festival, 1,200 members. That is a party. That is beautiful. And really talking about, Ani, you referenced lifting family engagement and community liaisons as bridges. Really, this is not just with families, but it's alongside families, which is really important. Then we talked about challenges. There's always going to be a challenge, and we talked about that in Mindshift. Systemic change is hard, but you all do it together, and that has to support to make that happen. Really listening to teachers, creating space for feedback, offering grace, and leading with empathy. I thought those were just beautiful words of wisdom from you all. And just looking ahead is, I love what you said, Eric. It's 100%. Audacious goals, 100%. And how can we give that 100%? But really connecting and learning from each other and growing. So if I had to go with one unifying message, idea from all of us is that meaningful support for our multilingual learners really happens with all of us. It's with systems, it's with families, it's with educators, and that we're all aligned for a shared purpose, even when it's hard. So thank you all so much for today and for being part of this panel with me and inviting me also to share with you.
Thank you.
Valentina, I'm going to send it back to you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Patty. What a great and inspirational panel, everybody. Let's give them a lot of love in the chat, all the hand clapping, all of the hearts. I wish that I could just put my hands like this and make it happen on the screen, but my hands don't have technology. The screen does, though. Oh, look at all the love that's coming through on the chat. Amazing. Definitely. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure that all of our panelists definitely appreciate that. We definitely appreciate them volunteering their time to provide all of that wonderful information to all of you that are still here at almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That is dedication. I don't know where you're at, but where I'm at, it is raining. So just enjoying the rain and also being here to learn what you could bring to your classroom or your programs the next day. So let me go ahead and transition. As mentioned at the start of the webinar, CDE is excited to offer professional development certificates to all attendees of this live session. Your professional development certificate will be sent from upk@cde.ca.gov to the email address provided during registration. If you do not receive your professional development certificate within the next 2 weeks or by February 24th, please feel free to reach out to us at upk@cde.ca.gov, and a link to the mailbox will be shared in the chat shortly. We did see some messages about people saying that their name isn't showing up correctly. If you do not receive your certificate, please reach out to us and we will assist you. I love all the hearts that are coming through. Love it. I will now go ahead and pass it to our EED director, Steve, for reflections and closing. Thank you, everyone. Next slide, please.
Valentina, what a great discussion. And I think as I was listening, just strategies and really importantly, mindsets shared by the panel and presenters. So I want to take a moment just as we close out to say thank you to everyone that made this webinar happen today. This is a critical topic. We talked about the percentage, the share of children in our state under 5 that are multilingual learners, right? So this is real, right? This is a critical part of like supporting education of our youngest learners. So thank you to all the participants who also took time out of their busy day to attend the webinar and hear this content. I'm inspired by the leadership of today's panel and partners. really a group of leaders who do not equivocate when it comes to the strategies and practices needed to support children learning in multiple languages. And so just specifically, thank you to our presenter, Elizabeth Woodington, our moderator, Patty Chavez. You summed it up beautifully at the end. And our panelists, Ani, Rebecca, Jennifer, and Eric, your wisdom and experience shows us what is possible when we focus on supporting multilingual children and cultivating multilingualism. I'd also like to thank our CDE team. Valentina, who you see on every webinar, just, from start to finish on these webinars. And so just wanted to do a special shout out for Valentina, but so many of the team that is that you don't see on the webinar necessarily, and who without without the hard work, this wouldn't have been as the success that it was today. Our ASL team, who always show up and are there to make sure that our webinars are accessible. Our technology team to make sure that the lights are on, so to speak. So many great minds working together to make this event happen. So just thanks to the entire team, and thank you again to the participants for your time today. We appreciate you. And I'm going to leave us now with a quote from a Chinese proverb: to learn a language is to have one more window at which to look at the world. Have a great evening, everyone.